Hello, everyone. My name is Leighton Keller, and I'm doing my third internship here in Chicago, doing player development at Elite Baseball Training, which is a baseball facility, obviously in Chicago, and they're also affiliated with the Cubs. So I got to work quite a bit with some Cubs instructors, along with a few Cubs athletes as well. On the player development side, I was really working with a lot of technology and kind of incorporating the technology into swings and how you can pretty much engineer someone's swing and based off of, past injuries they've had, strength, and flexibility, and incorporate that into the swing to get their best results out. And the first technology I learned about was the force plates, and that really just measures the amount of force you're putting into the ground throughout your swing between the back leg and the front leg, and so on. The K vest, that is going to be all like the lasers and the beams that you have hooked up to your upper body and your arms, and that really shows the path you're taking throughout your swing. Blast, that is a piece of technology that gives back a lot of feedback off of the angle your bat is, how fast your bat's moving, if you're on plane with the ball. Rapsodo, that's really shows your exit velocity, kind of if you're putting backspin on the ball, topspin on the ball. So it really helps give you feedback on if you're really squaring the ball up correctly or not. And that hit tracks, it's really just a virtual display of the field. So if you're in a cage and you don't really have the idea of where the ball's flight might be going, the hit tracks is another thing that kind of reads your exit velo and then is able to show you like where you're hitting the ball in accordance on the field. And then pictured right here is one of the force plate readings. And this is Ed Howard, who was the 16th overall pick by the Cubs in the 2020 MLB draft. Next, what I also did with this internship is I wasn't planning on it at first, but I ended up getting asked to take over an 11U team. And, I wanted to get out of my comfort zone. And so I took on my first little head coaching job. But besides that, after our 11U team finished up, I was able to be an assistant coach for the 13U team and help out doing that. And meanwhile, besides, going to games and coaching at games, I was holding practices and giving private lessons to some of my kids who wanted some extra help off the field and outside of practice. The three goals that I really made out for myself this summer was to take lead on testing an athlete. So, really walk them through the force plate, um, the K vest, the blast, all that kind of stuff. And I was able to achieve this one not as early. My original goal was to be able to take over in early July and try to lead one, but it ended up being a little later in July than I would have liked. But, once I got my first test done, I was able to do quite a few. And it was honestly a really cool experience to be able to understand and really just take the reins, get comfortable with the uncomfortable. And that went directly. And to kind of like, you kind of sound silly, but at the same time, like for me, taking over the head coach of the 11U team because they wanted a coaching change halfway through their season. And you know how that can sound. And so with me also not coaching previously as like a head coach or anything like that, especially at a competitive level, I was a little nervous to get in it, but I wanted to get out of my comfort zone right away, whether it be learning the technology and even something like this. So I was able to achieve that as well, and growing my network because there's a lot of people that are floating around the facility, lots of familiar faces, lots of faces that hold a lot of weight in the facility. So I was making sure to reach out, being able to help anyone at any time, or at least try to be there anytime I could be, and really just strengthening those connections, whether it be, going to get lunch with some of the coworkers and some of the instructors there, during a weekday, but not just trying to expand the conversations a little bit more outside of work and get more on a personal level. And that was something that I was able to do, and it was honestly really cool seeing where some of the, like, I have some true friends now that I worked with that, you would, if I wouldn't have gone out and wouldn't have made an effort, it wouldn't have, I wouldn't have been as close to them as I am today. What did I learn with working in baseball? It's pretty much, it's real crazy. You got to be ready for anything. And so, um, first thing I learned was be available because, you could be having a quote unquote off day, and then, 5 minutes later you have 10 requests pop up, whether, hey, can you help coach this? Can you go to the camp today, work tryouts? Hey, we got someone coming in for a test and that wants to go over an assessment and get evaluated. So, I mean, you really just got to be ready for anything. And that also goes over into just say yes. If you, when you're at an internship, even though there might be some things that you don't necessarily want to do or you don't necessarily feel comfortable with, you got to think like, why am I here? What is my why? And so that's why saying yes, that helps you figure out your why, because some of the things I said yes on, I didn't necessarily like, but that's something I now have in my little toolkit of stuff that I'm done, stuff now that I feel comfortable with. So saying yes is just a really big, that also, makes you dependable. You start getting more responsibilities the more you can handle and the more you know how to do. And so it really just helps kind of build your status up, especially when you start at the bottom like you will in an internship. The other one is embrace challenges. I know that when you're not in a comfortable setting or you're trying to do something new and you're going to face many challenges, and it's just instead of being nervous or afraid of those challenges, step in and really use them as learning tools and learning curves, because everyone makes mistakes, everybody's going to make mistakes. So the biggest thing is to learn from those mistakes, build off those mistakes, and just find a way to get it done, because we're all going to face challenges in whatever workforce that we go into one day. So really just trying to embrace them and overcome them instead of being afraid of them was a big piece for me. And once I really started to learn how to embrace those challenges, um, that's when I felt like my opportunities really took off within my internship. My biggest takeaways is, I mean, you get in whatever you, or you get out whatever you put in. And a lot with the technology stuff, when you first look at it, it looks really confusing with all the graphs and all the different data that's being put in front of you. So I mean, like, you can either step back and say, oh, I'll figure it out over time, or you dive right in right away, figure it out, practice at home, you know, do things yourself. And, that ties into be your own guinea pig. I was struggling to understand, how the KVS worked and how the force plates worked, but I was able to just throw on all the stuff myself and work on different movements, fill different movements, and see how the results would read back on those graphs and screens. So that was how I really figured out how to understand these graphs and how to really be able to be a benefit for someone by being able to explain correctly and give helpful tips to hitters who might come in trying to figure out problems and improving their swing. And really, my biggest takeaway was just kind of I figured out what I want to do with my future. I really liked getting into the player development. It really interests me. I had passion for it. And, I really feel like having passion for something you're doing is also going to help you, put in a lot more than you might when you're doing something that you might not like to do or you're not too passionate about. What would I tell my younger self? Don't be content. Once after doing the first test on my own, I could have been content, but instead, me and my other internee slash coworker, we just continue to like, let's keep doing it. Let's switch up roles. Let's try it from all different kind of angles, and just to improve in whatever way we could, because there's always room to get better. Long story short, there's always going to be something you can do better. There's always going to be something you can understand better. So just don't be content. Keep driving forward. Be the best version of yourself. And for me, that's, with the knowledge that you have, go forward with it. Don't uh, disassociate yourself with other people just because you might not understand it to their extent. I mean, don't be afraid to ask questions, dive right in, ask questions, learn how to do it, because, if you're in there showing your best effort, giving your all, showing that you care, you want to be there, whoever you're working for is going to want to help you, and essentially not going to stop until they do help you, which is what I experienced. I stepped in, I asked a few questions right away, and after that, the help was endless. As long as I wanted it, it was always there for me to take. And, like I touched on earlier, never be afraid to ask questions. I know that in uncomfortable situations where you might feel like you should know something, but you really don't, go ahead, ask those questions, because they're always going to be there to be answered. And long story short, once again, that goes back to showing that you care, showing you want to be there, and that's just gonna almost make your boss want to help you more, really just, step in and really want to see your success because especially at this job, my boss and really wants to, see us succeed and really wants to give us the upper edge because long story short, we're coming with the goals of going into player development for an MLB team. They really want to see you come out of their program, I guess you could say, or their organization because that looks really good on them as well. So they're there to help you as long as you allow yourself to be helped. Advice for new and current sports management students. I incorporated both the new and current because I believe these can go hand in hand. Um, you're never too young for an internship. I know most schools and professors might start getting on you your junior year that you need to start getting into the internships your last 2 years. But honestly, like within the fall, spring, summer, those three internship opportunities, and you only have 4 years. That's a total of 12 internship opportunities. When in reality, most universities and schools only require two. It's never too early to start. Get in there, start building your resume, start getting confidence out in the workforce, and that leads over into networking. Um, and a perfect example for the new students, Dr. Baleska right away. Start networking with her, start networking with the rest of the class because ultimately we are a family in the UMSL sports management program. So we like to help one another out and because we all want to see one another succeed. Create a LinkedIn. I can't tell you how much LinkedIn has helped me connect with people, learn more about people. And then when you do connect with those people, make sure you follow up with your connections. You don't want to just have a hi, hello, little conversation for a day and then that's it. You do want to fill in with those connections so that you can form a deeper connection. And that leads on to down the road when, for instance, if you need to reach out to that person that you connected with and that you took time to build a connection with, they're more likely to step in, help you out, and the success starts from there. Um, Also embrace the grind. Sports management is a grind of a field of occupation to get in. I mean, you really have to work. I remember my first couple internships, it was really doing a lot of the heavy grunt work. And, just with the thought of talking to Dr. Bleska after, just knowing like, yeah, this is how it starts. But the harder you work, the more you're going to start building up that ladder, building up that totem pole. So just really embrace that grind and don't give in. Um, this one, volunteer. This one kind of ties in to the if you're never too young because even if you're a freshman or someone and you're just too nervous to really dive into an internship, go ahead, start volunteering for some sporting events or other events that are going on. So then you can start getting an idea of maybe what you want to intern in and so on. Separate yourself from other interns once you get into your internship. Whether it be show up early, be the first one there, last one to leave, just do something to separate yourself from other interns so that long story short, you stick out to your bosses in your boss's head and he knows he can count on you and he's the one or they're the one that you go to or that they go to at all times. And then I already touched on it, but I couldn't stress how important it is following up with your connections. Following up with my connections has really helped me go a long way. This is my first internship in Chicago. I've been in St. Louis my past 2 years. I'm still connected with um, my boss from my last internship in St. Louis, and I need to make sure that I continue to grow my connections, especially being in another city like Chicago. It's a great way for me to spread my connections and continue to build off of them. So I know when I get back to school for the fall that I'm going to continue to talk to my friends and my bosses at Elite. Some things about the UMSL Sports Management Program is first off, just to touch on Dr. Valeska, she's there to be your best friend. She wants to see you succeed more than anyone, and she's gonna push you and take you out of your comfort zone. She's going to give you the strong and honest feedback, and you just need to take it. You need to learn from it. She's going to be there to help you. She's going to help you set up your resume. She's going to help you run through your LinkedIn, help you set up, make sure it looks presentable. Um, we do a lot of Instagram takeovers for our internships when you are an intern. So, you know, you can definitely check us out at UMSL Sports Management there, as there's so many interns going on, whether it be some couple people repeating. I know I just finished my third Instagram takeover on there, but there's just so many different interns on there that are doing so many different things. So it's a really cool little thing to take a look at and learn a little bit more about what the interns in the sports management program are doing. In terms of a class setting, it's really interactive. It is on Zoom, but everyone's got their cameras on. Um, everyone's interacted. Everybody's included in conversations, and it's not really your typical class. When you think of going to class at 8 a.m., and you might be thinking, let's go in, we're going in, we're going to look at some kind of slideshows, or we're going to have some kind of presentation, but really like we were doing hands-on stuff the whole time. Like sometimes we'd go into class, work on LinkedIn, just on how on professional development, along with uh, forming new contacts, filling up with connections, helping us manage our emails, along with also one of my classes, instead of Dr. Bleska's way, instead of going over PowerPoints and stuff like that the whole time, we would do debates. So we would get topics, we'd do research on the topics, and we divide into two groups and debate. And long story short, it was a really competitive atmosphere like your sports management world's going to be in. And it was also a great learning tools. Um, Another thing we did in class, which touches on the real life projects, we got to recently do the marketing, ticket sales, make the sponsors, get sponsors for the O'Fallon Hoots. And so it was a real life thing. We were truly trying to sell out the opening day for the O'Fallon Hoots, who is a summer collegiate team. But Dr. Bleska is always very good about keeping everyone engaged in class, making it a fun learning atmosphere where it's easy to learn. It's not, you're not necessarily regret or not wanting to go to class. You're really wanting to show up, and it's just easy to get better in class with her teaching, with all the energy that she brings. Thank you for listening and hearing me out on my internship. If you need anything, if I can answer any questions for any of those sports management majors out there, you can reach me at 502-599-5920, or if it's easier to reach for you to email me, it's leightonkeller2@gmail.com. Thank you. Hope everyone has a good one.